in 2010, 11, that time frame, it started going to digital projection. And we were kind of, movie theaters across the country were kind of strong held to the technology because you weren't going to be able to get a first run film if you weren't able to receive it digitally. And so like the investments that had to go into that, and then just theaters all across the country were just like dumping these 35 millimeter projectors into the trash.
You're listening to Oh My Omaha, the podcast, where we uncover inspiring things about our community through the stories of inspiring people who call it home. I am Dee Harrell, and this is the creator of Oh My Omaha, the blog, and the blogosphere's friendliest face herself, Kim Reiner.
Hi there.
Hey, Kim.
Hi, Dee.
How are you?
I'm cold.
Yeah. We were just saying it's been a while since we've seen each other, and it's been like the most frigid weeks.
Yes.
Can't believe it.
I know.
What are your kids doing? They keep canceling school.
One's in school.
Oh.
Like the only school in Omaha that's open.
Which one is it?
Henry's in school.
Really?
Yes. Like no late start, nothing. They're like,
yeah, you're going
we are
like, we're tired of you guys being home. You're going to go to school.
Yes, we don't follow anyone else's schedules.
Yeah.
And Charlotte's been off. Like she's had so far 4 hours of school this week. Oh. She's hoping Friday canceled too, but
yeah.
I can't imagine them canceling again.
I mean, I don't.
Some districts have already, but
no, for tomorrow.
I think so.
Oh my gosh.
So.
Yeah, that is like
not much is getting done in this house.
Well, and then I feel bad because then I'm like, okay, yeah, it's really cold, but then I grew up in Toronto, so I'm just like. You're staying home. It's like sunny out, like just one extra layer, right. And you're totally fine. No, but yeah, it's getting. People are like. Aurora wanted to go to her grandma's. Like, I think we're all getting, like, just kind of cabin fevered with each other.
Yeah.
She's like, so what do you want to do today? Yeah. And then it's like, I want to go to the indoor pool. We're like, no. I don't want to go to the indoor pool.
Oh, Charlotte had swim lessons last night, and she walked out with wet hair.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, my hair's crunchy. And I'm like,
yeah.
Why? And she was waiting outside for me. And I'm like, you kidding me? Like, mine's 10? I don't know.
She's all right.
Yeah.
Again,
it's all part of the youth experience.
It really is. I mean, I don't condone anybody being out there very long.
No.
But yeah. I mean, using like part of my workout was like shoveling the driveway and the backyard because he dislocated his shoulder. Oh, right. So I've been doing all of the shoveling duties. Yeah, it's really good, But it's beautiful outside today.
Yeah, I agree. Hurts to breathe, but
balaclava, just cover your face.
Yes.
But yeah, I would, one time actually, Parker and I, my daughter, we walked when I still lived downtown. Mm-hmm. And ironically, for who our guest is today, but she lives at like closer to, I can't even talk right now, the north, like Nomo kind of stuff. And so I met her there, and then we walked to Film Streams, and both of us were like, my nose hairs are frozen. Like, because the walk is really short, but I just hadn't had that happen in a really long time. But that balaclava, I keep it in my coat now, because just for those purposes only. Smart. Yeah. Did you walk to Film Streams when you lived downtown?
No, that was a little bit further for me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We were down closer to like, I'm drawing a blank. We haven't talked in a while. Jackson Street.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I love it. Mm-hmm. I love that little walk. It's a good time.
Yeah. So we should jump right in.
Yeah, let's just jump right in.
All right, cool. Our guest today is Maggie Wood, Executive Director of Film Streams. Film Streams' mission focuses on presenting and discussing film as an essential art form, complemented by community collaborations, education programs, film clubs, special events, and more. Welcome to the show.
More. Yeah, hi. Thank you for having me. Great to see you.
Yeah. Let's just jump right in.
Let's jump right in here. So you've been with Film Streams now. This is kind of your second time around, right?
Yep, second time. I started as the executive director in May of 2024. So not quite a year, just almost a year. But I was there for about 6 months before that, helping them before I got hired. So, and then I was there from 2009 to 2012. So I always say when Film Streams was a baby, I was there and a part of that small team. And so it's been really great to be back and be a part of something cool like this.
Yeah.
I was looking it up to see when Filmstream started, and so technically this is like the 20th year, right? But the building itself was like 2007. Is that right?
So, yeah, it was incorporated in 2005.
Okay.
It opened in 2007. So July of 2007, our 20th year is technically 2027 if we talk about, when that is. So the downtown Ruth Sokoloff Theater, 2007. And then in 2017, the newly renovated Dundee Theater opened. And that building is 100 years old this year.
This year.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. I love, the second location. That I loved that, and it's great.
And
that,
I love
that space.
how that space changed. I love what it's become.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was going to ask you, so in the time that, since 2007, how do you think film appreciation has changed in Omaha since since the organization started its programming?
I mean, our founder, Rachel Jacobson, ahead of her time, really in envisioning this for Omaha. And I'm not from here originally. So I moved here in 1997. And as I'm talking about this, 97, 2007, 2027, all these things are lining up. But I moved here in 97, and people were really apologetic to me about Omaha. They were like, oh, you're from Chicago. You moved here from Chicago. And I said, yeah. And they're like, we're so sorry. We're so sorry. And when Film Streams opened, it got a lot of like really great national press. There were a lot of people who were really energized by it. Alexander Payne, local man makes good in the movie world, was one of the founding board members. And so people were paying attention to the organization, which is a lot of pressure for like a little organization that was just starting out and really developing the cultural embracement of film here, and really guiding it on its path. So, the opportunities to show films that some of these big movie plexes weren't playing was really one of the draws to bring back a lot of the classics and give people an education around that. The community collaborations were really something that was really beautiful too, because it was not only just collaborating with other arts organizations or other artists, but really with social service organizations to bring about enhancement to their mission and awareness to their mission. And I always thought Film Streams was very generous with its space and where they shared the power of film and who they shared it with and how they invited people into the space. So it's really beautiful. So watching the growth that happened around that, when you were asking about how has it changed the landscape, now coming back after a number of years and meeting young people that were like, I grew up at Film Streams. I'm like, how could you grow up here? Like we're still all teenagers here, right? Mm-hmm. And I realized that, people got this education a lot earlier in life. So they were craving new things and they were looking for new ways to engage with the art form. And so, we had, Film Streams has just always been such a great beacon of like adaptation and rising and meeting the times and meeting the content that's out there for films, because, as different documentaries or first run programming gets released by the studios, you don't really have, that's kind of dictated when it comes out, but like to be able to create with 4 screens now, having 2 different theaters, more opportunities for people to come in and enjoy the classics or films that they may have missed along the way. It was just Valentine's Day and we played Moonstruck.
Yeah, I saw that.
Which came out in 1987.
That's crazy.
I know.
87.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. There we go. And I was 16 at the time and I didn't get it, I was like, okay, Cher's in a movie. Who's this Nick Cage guy? Like, what's going on here? And I was like, yeah, Moonstruck, I think I probably saw it on videotape, on VHS or something. And so when we were playing it again and everybody was so excited about this film, I was like, okay, I'm going to go back. I'm going to sit in this crowd and watch it. So watching it in a 300-person theater, which is sold out on like a Friday night, Valentine's Day, all these people came here to see this film from 1987. And just, to go along that ride, not only just watching the movie, but like with this group of people, hearing the laughter in these spots that you were like, oh yeah, that is funny, or the groans or the anticipation and nervousness, it changes the film watching from a singular perspective into more of a group perspective. And, that's really one of the greatest things about being a part of Film Streams or participating in anything at Film Streams, even if you're just the only one in the theater, you're still having an experience with a lot of people that really care about making sure that the best popcorn in town is being popped there. Yes.
Really, really great.
Yes. And we can even rank them between the theaters because the downtown theater is better. And then the Dundee, which is controversial, but I invite anyone to challenge me on that. Just come in and buy a bag or two.
I would agree with you, actually.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
I love that you talk about being in a theater by yourself, because there's, among a lot of things that I love about Film Streams, is that it has been able to create an atmosphere, like an encapsulating atmosphere of the theater and like visual arts experience in a way that bigger venues cannot grasp or even emulate, mimic. There's an intimacy, even with the bigger theater, there's an intimacy to the atmosphere itself, and then the way that it's just carefully curated and designed in that way that it feels, even being which I have been in a theater by yourself, where you don't feel, it doesn't feel overwhelming. You feel like almost like you're just chilling in your own space. There is an intimacy to the size of both buildings, right? That I think is special. It feels, I don't know, what I think a theater, like going to the movies, would have felt like when they initially first started going to the movies. It feels very, not traditional, but like it harkens to something that isn't easy to do in a modern space. I think
that is really sweet of you to say, and that's a huge compliment for Film Streams. And the team that works there, they care so much about it. Like, I think that is part of the big difference around, because I worked in a movie theater when I was a kid, popcorn and concessions, box office, that sort of thing. And it was fun. I mean, I got to see Ferris Bueller's Day Off before anybody else. It was a cool thing to do. But again, I was just there as an hourly wage, and, I was probably making $4.50 an hour or something like that. And being here and like working with this team who, concessions, our box office, they're involved in like inventory and ordering and paying attention to things. They're so engaged with the members that come in. They love to talk about film. They love to talk about those things. And you don't get that at other theaters. Right. So I think, I love that people feel, the design of these theaters is beautiful. The fact that we're in this 100-year-old building in the Dundee Theater, and that the 100-year celebration is this year. I just had mentioned to the crowd, it's our birthday this year, and we're going to be doing all these really great things, and I'd love to talk to you guys about that too. And I said, just thinking about this room right here for 100 years, it has served as a place for people to come see film. And one of the individuals on our team had gone through and done this deep dive into like every single film that has played at that theater. So it's been through a number of owners throughout the years. And thankfully everybody has kept it as a theater and has had their own philosophy around it and taken care of it. But when it opened in 1925, December 19th, the fated day, I just met a woman and she told me her mom lived there in the 20s. And she said they used to write the times of the films that were playing on the sidewalk in chalk.
Oh, I love that.
In front before they had the marquee. And so just knowing that this has been such a mainstay in Omaha for 100 years and that we get to continue to be stewards of this building, stewards of this, the original intent was like we were going to create, the Dundee Theater was going to be a place that took in mind like the people that were coming to it. Yeah. And so like thinking about the patrons and creating a space where people felt welcomed. And, when you look at every opportunity that we have had along these 100 years to like tear down that building or find something else when all of this new technology had been built along the way. There is something really special about, again, we still have a 35 millimeter projector in there. So we're still able to show film, where when I was working at Film Streams before in 2010, 11, that time frame, it started going to digital projection. And we were kind of, movie theaters across the country were kind of strong held to the technology, because you weren't going to be able to get a first run film if you weren't able to receive it digitally. And so like the investments that had to go into that, and then just theaters all across the country were just like dumping these 35 millimeter projectors into the trash. And, you know, again, I appreciate the beautiful care that our projectionists take in, you know, getting some of these rare films as well. You know, I know, like, you look at film shipping costs and what that ends up costing us, because a lot of times we prefer to play these things on 35 millimeter because it's a trade, it's a craft. We work with a local IATSE union, and we have unionist projectionists in our space. And so they're all trained. And again, it's an art form that you don't see a lot of anymore. And, you know, we've had a lot of conversations even about like, what does this next generation look like for people using this type of equipment, and how can we make sure that this is an art form and this craft continues on? Because there are some films you can't even get on digital, you know, so that haven't been produced in that way. And then there is just something special about watching something in the original form that it was created in as well. So yeah, it's been, I mean, from top to toe, this whole org has got it going on in terms of being cool. Yeah.
That is an awesome journey. Yeah. Why don't you tell us about some of the things that are going to be happening for the 100?
Yeah. Right? So we're doing a really cool thing to celebrate 100 years of cinema, a century of cinema. In the Dundee Theater. And it is a series called the Dundee Hundy.
Oh,
and so we're
that's awesome.
Yeah. And you know, we just launched ticket packages to our members. So people who are a member of Film Streams get advance notice of anything cool that we're doing. They get discounts on tickets and concessions. Our partner Lola's, which is part of the Dundee Theater, which is this incredible restaurant. You get a discount there. So there's like all these like really great things that go into that. But we've released this ticket package to our members. It's selling like hotcakes. Like, it is a big deal. It's 10 films, 10 sort of one-night onlys at the Dundee Theater over the course of the next 10 months, starting in March, that is celebrating each of the centuries. So we've looked at every film that's ever played there. And we've picked, you know, what do we have access to? The first film that played there, the opening night, was called The Trouble with Women.
Oh.
And, or was it The Trouble with Women, Trouble with Wives? It was written by a woman. So there's one thing. So maybe it was ahead of its time.
Yeah.
But you can't get a copy of that film or anything. So we're kicking it off with this really great silent film called Metropolis. And it is something that a lot of people have seen. We've played it down at the Ruth Sokoloff Theater before, and we're bringing in this band called the Anvil Orchestra, and they're going to play live along with the film. And so that's kicking off the series. That film came out in the 20s, and so playing it here at the Dundee Theater with this live band is going to be a great celebration. So kicking it off, you know, that we've got the next film is It Happened One Night with this Clark Gable and Claudia Colbert, and it won Best Picture in the 30s. It's a great black and white film. You know, they had sound in the theaters by the 30s. Yeah. So we're partnering with Lola's. It's going to be a great date night. Omaha Conservatory of Music is going to have some students come in and play in the lobby. Nice. But again, just a great film. It's quirky and fun. It's one of my favorite classic films that we're playing. Then the 40s, we're playing The Red Shoes, which is another iconic Technicolor comes into play. It's this beautiful film. We're partnering with the Omaha Ballet Academy along with that. I have to do these in order. 50s is Rebel Without a Cause. So that's going to be a really cool one. And we're, talking about sock hops and like, talking to the Durham Museum and like costumes and like 50s are like, we talked about doing like a kind of an old car show in the parking lot. And we were like really into it. And then I was like, but people need to park.
Yeah.
And parking is so TBD on that one.
Yeah.
The 60s then. Oh, okay. Here's a fun fact about the Dundee Theater. It played The Sound of Music for 118 weeks in a row. So over 2 years in the 60s, they played The Sound of Music. People love it. People love The Sound of Music. Yep. So we're bringing that back because that's an iconic film for the Dundee Theater. They got an award from the studio because it was the second longest run of The Sound of Music in the globe.
Oh my gosh.
So second only to London. Dundee Theater came in number 2. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So we're going to start that up again this year. We're just going to run it for the next 3 years. No. So we're going to show that. That'll be fun. And we're partnering with the River City Mixed Choir. And we're going to do a sing-along, so it's going to be a good time. Harrell and Maude is the next film that we're showing in the 70s. Yeah, so that's another sort of like classic film, like really great music that goes along with that. And so there's a little vintage shop that we're partnering with in Dundee to like bring some of that kind of vintage feel to the experience. The Empire Strikes Back is our 80s film, which is...
I was curious. I was like, what's going to be in the 80s?
Yeah. And so like everybody's excited about that. That'll be a really cool partnership that we're doing there. I know we're still kind of like putting the finishing touches on it, and they're like, it's not for public. I'm like, okay. So anyway, stay tuned for that.
Okay. Yeah.
The 90s then. We're really looking at this, and we'd like any of you Dundee Theater former staffers who are listening or watching, we'd love for you to join us in the 90s. We're going to be playing Pulp Fiction up on the big screen.
Awesome.
And we'd love to make it sort of like a 90s night, and like let's tell some stories about the good times that happened at the Dundee Theater. And then after that is that the last one? 2000s. Amelie.
Oh, yeah.
So classic film. And, when I moved here to Omaha, I remember the first movie I saw was at the Dundee Theater, but I remember Amelie being like in the poster case for so long, just like that iconic thing. So it's a great film. And then the last one that we're wrapping up with is when Film Streams had the care of the theater, Little Women, the Greta Gerwig version, bringing that back. So, partnering with the Omaha Public Library and, talking about film adaptations, and it's holiday time, and so
that's awesome.
It's a good family movie. And so we're doing that on the actual birthday of the opening of the Dundee Theater. So we're all super excited. So a lot of partner, a lot of partner programming that's happening down at the Ruth. This is sort of like Frank Capra is the director of It Happened One Night, and so we're doing a 3-part Capra series. One of our educational series will be around sort of like the filmmaking of Harrell and Maude, and so like there's some really cool, other things that we're doing. We're collecting stories from people. A lot of people, it was like First Date or Midnight Movies have been like an iconic part of the theater. Did you guys go to Midnight Movies? What were the ones that you went to?
Gosh.
So I remember we went to Princess Bride.
Oh, yes.
Okay. And it was amazing. And
I
don't know. So we were there, and whenever they said the Dread Pirate Roberts, everyone would go, "Arr!" And the thing is, it was funny. We thought it was hilarious. But then somebody in the background, in the far back row, was like, "Why is everybody talking?" And then everyone started mimicking. Why is everybody talking? And so it was just like it was funny, but it was like some poor soul did not know that everyone was going to quote along.
Yeah.
And That was hilarious.
They know now.
Yeah, now they know. But
That's
that was a
awesome.
great.
Yeah, Rocky Horror Picture Show is like one of the big
Yeah, I
ones
was just
that
gonna say
people
that one,
come
yeah.
to a lot. We'll do that in October, so
Good
like right around
times.
the Halloween
Yeah.
era. Like, yeah, that's always a fun. We have like these little bags that we prepare. People can buy them and use the props
kids,
within them.
I
and
love
everything.
that. See,
yeah.
that's the thing too about film streams is like the care that goes along with the supporting of the whatever, like the films that you are showing. Even the library at the like of different film books or like soundtrack books. Like I purposely spend some time just looking at some of the books before I even go see a show or after the show or whatever. I was at Ruth or at in Dundee. Yeah, I love that little section. I think it's just so well thought of. And then as an artist too, you just feel, I don't know, I love the vending machine at Ruth. Like I get those for gifts. Like I'll just get a whole bunch of $5 gifts. Like 'cause it's like original art vending machine. It's the coolest idea ever. I love it so much. Yeah, I think that's so cool.
Yeah, well, that's really great to hear too, because I think, we're always like, what could we do more of? Like, how can we bring the creativity around film and music and food, like how do we bring all of these things, make them more tangible, make them something, our GM of Experience, she like picks out stickers for each of the films. And so like, we're going to do a David Lynch retrospective coming up here soon.
Cool.
And so we were like, let's get some Lynch stickers to go along with this. And, even with the Dundee Hundy, like trying to think of like iconic merchandise that will go along with the films that we're showing, that people will want to have a little bit of, a little piece of this to take home with them. Because, I was talking to a friend of mine, I was like, oh, we're doing this series. And they're like, how am I going to know today that I'm going to go see a movie in August? Like she couldn't wrap her mind around, you buying a subscription. I was like, you buy tickets to the Broadway all the time. And so, it's like, how do we really show that this art form of a film, like, yeah, you can watch it at any time on streaming or, have your own experience with your own, some people really like that, right? I think that serves some people for some time, but there is something about being a third space for people that isn't home, that isn't work, but yet there's all different types of people that can walk into a film and bear witness to the same thing. And, especially in a time where people are like struggling with like mental health and the stressors of the world, it's not just escapism. I don't, that's part of it. I mean, you get to go and transport yourself, and sometimes it's someplace really great. However, I find like people are more apt to like really have deep conversations about something they just saw that might have been fiction, or about a dialogue that they heard around that, than they are about their own things in their own lives. And so film can be a mirror, it can be a transportation device, it can be a cradle, it could be, it could be a lot of things.
And it's a communal experience that if everyone's there in the audience, like it just, you experience it together. And doesn't happen when after COVID and the shutdown, like the first time going out to a theater, it was just like I forgot about like sitting among other people and like cheering and
and like whenever somebody's eating their popcorn, I'm like, oh my gosh, somebody's coughing in the corner. Or I feel like I'm like, and I'm like,
I remember that too. You're just like
everything's
all
fine.
into your coat.
We picked a foreign film, so like we knew like might not be as many people in the audience.
Yeah.
So it was like.
Yeah, and that's one of the things, we've really been working on too, because it was a hard return for people to return to this beautiful space and to kind of, can we go back? Should we go back to remembering all of those? We should remember, what this did to us, what the pandemic has done to the world. And how do we create safe, accessible environments where people, if they feel healthy, there is like also people come in with masks all the time. It is really a space where, again, sometimes people are like, I am not interested in seeing a film in your small micro cinema with 25 people, but I will go sit with 25 people in your 300 person theater. So, certain times of the day, less busy than as others. But, really trying to find ways to like get people to engage and return to movie going, because it can be really transformational if you let it be.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love that.
So my husband was like a film major, and so it was always kind of important that we wanted to introduce our kids to it. And so we love the Forever Young series.
Oh, yeah.
Since they were little, we would go to these movies, and then it's neat now that they're teenagers and they're starting to kind of. Our 15-year-old wants to start seeing classics. He wants to know, like, what are the really good movies to see, like the best comedy. And we're like, well, that's kind of hard to pick which is the best comedy. Yeah. And then now my daughter is actually, like, she's finally wanting to sit through, like, a documentary. Like, as long as she gets to pick what kind of documentary. Yeah. But, like, when we had her choice for movie night, and we gave her, like, 3 different options, and an animated one, and then one that was on Disney, and then a documentary on, like, a travel documentary, and she was like, let's do that one. And so I'm just like, oh, yes, you picked the documentary. Yeah, so
that's
it's
great.
neat to see that they.
Well, all of those things are now playing at the Oscar Shorts down at the Dundee Theater right now. So live shorts, documentary shorts, and animated shorts.
Love that.
So, so they can go and get a little taste of it. Some of it is a little mature, and some of it is pretty heavy, too. I will say that. But there is a good range in there for all of those pieces. And I love that you mentioned the Forever Young series, because that's one of those things that we're really trying to animate as well, because I can still remember the first movie that changed my life. Can you remember the first movie that changed your life?
Yeah.
What was it?
Actually, Empire Strikes Back.
Okay.
Well, I was just like, whoa, like, I was young. I was really little, but I remember, like, the sounds and the lights and the just the everything about it was, I mean, I work in production now, and I remember thinking about that movie, like, I wanted to be there. It was one of those, that moment of, like, oh, so fun. And so, like, I was the youngest of 3, so we would go home and, like, reenact all of it. But I have vivid memories of, like, watching that film and being like, whoa. But, like, E.T. did it for me a little bit. But, like, that, honestly, that Empire Strikes Back really...
I love it.
Really kind of impacted me quite a bit, which is strange to say out
I
loud. I hadn't said that out loud before, but
I love it.
How about you?
Mine was Grease.
Dig that.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
I saw it the summer before my 3rd grade. And, you know, that little, what'd you do over the summer? And people are like, I went here, I went there. And I was like, I saw this movie called Grease. Yes. And we're going to reenact it here in this 3rd grade. I've, like, drawn up and I've, like, cast everybody in the class. Like, I was obsessed with it.
I love that.
And then I didn't actually know what they were saying until I was, like, 20 or something like that. I was like, did you guys know what they were saying? And I sang those words along, but it never sunk in for me.
No, and that's the beauty of it. That's the reasons why we got to grow up watching, like, you know, Benny Hill and Three's Company.
Right, exactly.
Like, as little children, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's terrible. It's so funny.
Yeah.
That weird filter. But Grease, yes.
Yeah.
I have a list of my favorite fashion moments in film, and there's, like, it's quite an extensive list.
Was Grease one of them, or Grease 2?
Okay. Grease 2, the jackets, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
And the styling of the hair, amazing. But Sandy's outfit, when she takes her shoes off at the end, the race at the end, and she's got the full A-line, and she's just like, she took her shoes off in the thing, and
it was a beautiful,
shows her putting it back on. Oh my God.
Butter yellow, yeah.
Oh my God, I loved it so much. That, and then her outfit at the end.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, fine. Yeah. But that moment, I was like, oh my, she's got her little kids off, and she's just sitting there watching the race. Like, it was such a good fashion moment. I don't know. But Grease 2, those outfits. Yeah. Michelle oh my gosh, her hair. So good.
I think I've seen Grease 2.
Oh,
I don't know.
I was like,
all right, we'll play it.
Yeah. That's awesome. Kim, what was your movie?
I'm trying to think. Like, I don't know if I've got one that was like, I just had the ones that I remember being young and just feeling a little, like, traumatized or, like, disturbed by things.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, I think My Girl was I was a little older, but My Girl upset me. And then
I can't even talk about it.
I know. Like, and I see it, like, come up on streaming. I'm like, never. I won't have our kids. Or, like, Never Ending Story.
Oh.
Where I'm like, I wanted that adventure, but I don't want, like, the horse dying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, oh.
Yeah. Oh, gosh.
So
spoiler.
Like, sorry.
Spoiler, yeah, by the way. I mean, yeah.
So mine were all, like, these, little moments of, like, oh, my gosh.
Oh, gosh. You know what? You're not wrong.
Yeah.
Because if I'm thinking of like impacted in a positive way, but again, I was the youngest of 3.
I mean, there are, film. I mean, it touches people emotionally.
Yeah.
And, you know, people have the opportunity to experience things they never would have had the chance to experience, you know, just being back at Film Streams and being in this rotation of film and having dialogue around it. You know, we played 9 out of the 10 Best Picture nominees for this year. And, you know, to sit and to experience each one of those in a way, like, it still has, you still feel it's working. The emotional reaction is still working, just like when we were kids, you know? Absolutely. So, it's been a beautiful scenario being back. But even when you were talking about the classics, we have a Weekend Essentials program that we do. So 2 weekends in a row, we'll play the same film. What was the last one that we just did? This beautiful film, In the Mood for Love. And it was set in the 60s, but filmed in the 2000s. And it was just this beautiful little love story, foreign film. It was just breathtakingly beautiful. And again, something that is the individuals that do our programming, or general manager of programming, he does a really great job of like looking at lists and what is on like other people's best lists of cinema. And so really looking at, I think it's, where is I'm trying to think, it's like AFI, like top 100 list. But Love and Basketball is the film that we're playing this weekend and next weekend. Working Girls is another film that's in there. But, you know, there's been some really great films. There was a Neil Simon film called Heartbreak Kid that was something that I had never seen before. And, like, just even watching them source the film, there isn't a studio that has it for distribution. So it's owned by a pharmaceutical company.
Wow.
Yeah. And so you had to request the filming through that. So, like, again, people that own the rights to some of these films, it's like an interesting process along the way.
Yeah.
We also do a program called Cinemateca, and it's been in partnership with UNO for the last, you know, we do it every 2 years, but it's been happening since I think 2009, I think might have been the first year, but for a very long time. And so, like, sourcing South American films, we brought in this partner from Morelia, Mexico, who founded the Morelia Film Festival there. She came and brought all of these Mexican film noir films that played in Mexico that never had U.S. distribution. And so we sat in a room with 300 people watching this film, La Otra, of this Mexican noir that, again, I never would have had the chance to experience. I think a lot of people in the room never would have had the chance to experience. And just to, like, laugh along with it and, like, just to be moved by it, like, those are the kinds of experiences that I didn't even know I was craving. Like, I didn't even know, because, like, you're like, where do I go in town to do a thing, or to connect with people, or to not connect with them, to be around them, but to not feel like I have to carry the weight of a conversation around something. I recently took a 3-part educational series with our general manager of education. It was called A Summer's Wasting, and he pulled these 3 films that were in the height of summer. And so from different, like, early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s, all foreign films. And you're watching these summer scenes. And the way he brought this room of people to consciousness around it, you know, because it's freezing outside. And so this is perfectly timed. He was really smart in, like, how he created the timing around these films. Is to, like, we read a poem, or we read lyrics to a song, and we talk about, like, what does summer mean to you? You know, it's short-lived. And so, like, really putting yourself into that mindset before you watch this film, and, you know, start to talk about the context of it. And again, a room full of people watching this film, great conversation afterwards. I didn't say a word. So I mean, maybe I said a couple of things, but like I didn't participate. I didn't feel this like obligation to participate, which like for a lot of times I just want to be a voyeur in a room, but be around other people and listen to what other people think. And it was a really great experience to be in there and to be a part of that. And so he does those things like 2 or 3 times a year. Sometimes they're 3-part series, so it's like 3 Saturdays in a row that you just go down there and you make 20 new best friends and get a free popcorn along with it.
Talking about it being a feeling or a communal experience, and whether or not like being a participant or not, it is a shared experience, regardless if you talked about it or not. You know, I think that's what makes going to a movie such a great date night. People are like, you don't talk, but if you run out of things to speak about, or if you don't know if the thing that you can talk about is the thing you just saw, right? And there's something about that. There's something about being able to connect in that way, or using it as a measurement of whether or not you want to be, like, oh, you didn't like that movie? Okay.
Well, Well, I remember, like, again, I feel like film all along the way, because we can have dialogue around it. The movie Flatliners, which came out in the 80s. I remember like my friends and I talked about that a lot, sort of like a morality conversation of like, if that happened to you and you had that experience, what would be your Flatliners moment? And we all kind of shared like, oh, we were mean to that girl in the 3rd grade. And that's the thing. And it gives you the chance to like correct your life, like redirect how you're moving through the world, because you start to like compare it to like, oh, this taught me something about karma, or about what our actions could actually, what impact it could have on other people, whether we realize it or not. So for a long time, I feel like that was like my icebreaker question. Like, what would be your Flatliners?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Right to it.
That's a good one. Yeah. I mean, it is such an influencing force. I say all the time, like I speak in lyrics or movie quotes or show quotes nonstop. Kim can attest to it. She loves it when her husband and I speak like that.
Random quotes for him. Just like, that's a deep cut. How am I supposed to know that line?
I know. But it is such an influencing force. Like, honestly, the first movie I saw, you had asked which one had the biggest impact, but the first movie my parents brought me to in the theater, because my brother is 5 years older, my sister's 3 years older, so then I'm just itty, and they can't just leave me at home. But I went to The Shining. It was my first one, and I am like, the biggest fears of my life may not seem rational to other people, but it makes total sense in context of a horror film. Like, I can completely convince myself that there's someone standing behind a curtain, or like if I'm washing my face, I see myself in the mirror, bend down, and I'm going to come up and someone's going to be behind. Like, there's all these movie horror things that I think are just influenced because I had seen. But again, it's just there's a creativity that sparked that you may not even know it's happening when you go to a film, because you relate to something, whether it be a main character or the scene or something. There's something that pulls you into it that you're just going to relate to. It might just be the scare or the whatever. But I
think I won Kevin over when we were dating, and I had made a reference of like a new rug that I got. I'm like, it really ties the room together.
There you told me about it.
Stumble on it.
He told me about it.
Oh, did he?
Yeah. Hey, you totally did win him over with that one.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Every so often I could throw one out. But
he's like, okay, she quoted the Big Lebowski. It's fine. We're good. We're good. You may not like The Simpsons, but we're going to, you like Big Lebowski.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, okay. So just a little bit more about you.
Okay.
So I loved your reading about your journey, right? In the sense of like the construction world, and the like or operational business development stuff. And then really kind of honing in on your arts, because you did go to school for theater, in that sense. That spoke to me. I'm very much in the same vein. I'm an artist, but then there's this whole other side of me. And I just love that. How was that transition or that journey for you?
It feels natural looking back on it. I have a degree in theater and communications, and, did a little bit of acting right after college, and, but I mean, it was like, well, where I'm Star Search, I wasn't going to go that route. And, I needed to make money. I didn't have somebody like supporting me. So it was like, I had to find a job. I really loved lattes with a vanilla flavoring in them. And so it was like, I have to pay this phone bill. I have to pay this rent. And, I had some friends that lived in Washington, D.C. that I had gone to college with, that I had done theater with, that, were like kind of book nerds like I was. And so I went and moved there and lived in Washington, D.C. And again, had a job. I made copies for like the Pentagon, and it was called Capitol Legal Copies. It was on Pennsylvania Avenue, and it was just like these rows of copy machines that they would send these boxes. Yeah. And so, I'm just this 20-something-year-old kid living in DC and just buying CDs and being excited about, taking public transportation and meeting people, and it was fun. It was like a good time. So I just like really got into having fun. Yeah. And it is a struggle when you're an artist and trying to go that route and being true to that craft. Maybe I just didn't feel like I had the talent for it. And so it was like, where was I being welcomed with open arms and like what kind of places? And so, I took this job at this construction company as a timekeeper, secretary sort of position. And it was in these trailers. And like my friends would be like, you work for a construction. I'm like, there's a lot of characters here. Yeah. There's a good character study happening. But again, I was really welcomed, and like they thought I was smart, and I didn't even realize like what it really took to build a building. Like we were building these giant buildings. They were like the third largest general contractor in the U.S. And then they were building a building in my hometown of Bloomington Normal, Illinois. It was a State Farm building, which is the corporate headquarters there. And so I was there working, and they were like, you're great. Let's move you to Chicago, and you're going to help us with these jobs. And moved to South Carolina, was there for a short period of time doing a naval base. And they were like, you want to go to Omaha for 3 years? We're building a federal courthouse there. And so getting to be a part of that too. And that was like the really cool thing about Omaha, because I felt like I was in these big cities. I came from a small town. I was in these big cities, and it feels a little bit like Goldilocks and like, oh, the size of this city. I was the office manager. I had to like set up the office space here, and there was no address for where to send mail to. They had just like torn down this old Fontenelle hotel, and there was like nobody. And so I was like going to the post office, and I'm like, I'm setting up this office. Like, what's the address that I tell people to send? And they were like, oh, we don't even know. And so it was like getting to be a part of like building a landscape. And this is before I realized like, oh, Omaha loves to tear down buildings. But at the time, this was like something new, and I got really into what else was on that corner in Omaha all these years. And so I was the de facto like historian of the project. So I took pictures as the building started to raise, and like the people that worked there, like all these trades people from Omaha. It was a lot of fun. Like people were excited about being part of something big, and but seeing like this was a small home, this was, just landscape, like all these different years, like watching what got to like happen on that corner, and getting to feel like I was a part of something that's going to last forever. I'm not the architect, I'm not, the owner of this building, but I know, and I tell that to everyone, I'm like, that's the building I built. Yeah. Whenever we go by it, I have to like, I built that building right there, you guys, that. And so getting to be a part of that was really, like a fantastic experience for me. And then when that project was done, I decided to stay here in Omaha. Took some jobs doing some other business related things. I just thought about work differently then. It was like, I need a job. What is available? Yeah. I will take it. They will pay me this much. I will be lucky. I have health insurance. I can still buy my lattes. And, at some point, a friend of mine had said to me that she didn't like me when I didn't like my job. And at one point, I did not like my job. And I was like, oh, yeah, I actually have control. I don't have to wait for this job to be done or over. I can make a change right here, right now. And so that's when I decided to just work only at places that I love. And that's where my career trajectory, again, really started taking off, because it was I worked at Opera Omaha, took a pay cut, and I was their box office manager. They called it the audience services manager. That really,
Yeah.
But I was essentially a box office ticketing person, which, I'm a theater person. So it was great to do that. And I got to meet all of these people that were longtime season ticket holders, and they loved to tell their story. And the opera wasn't even that old at the time. It wasn't even 50 years at that time. So a lot of people the two folks that had started it were still alive, and they were still participating in it. And so getting to know them really started I think people started oh, you're a person that we know, and we see you at these events. And, working at the opera was a really great experience for me, because we started this partnership with Film Streams, because they were streaming the Met HD live.
Oh, yes.
And these Opera Omaha donors really wanted to see the Met HD, and there was no place in town that was going to do it. So they had gifted Film Streams with a projector to be able to bring this in, which is a really great thing.
Yeah.
And so we started partnering, and I'd be down there on Saturday mornings. I'm like, oh, this is cool. And so doing that. And when Film Streams had a position available, I was like, I want to go. I want to be a part of what they're doing. I'm really into this. And got the chance to work there. And then I also volunteered for Planned Parenthood. So Friends of Planned Parenthood is a group in town that used to help support the organization. They have it. It's more of an advocacy group now, but at the time it was really a fundraising group. Yeah. And so were
we on the board together?
Were we? Is that how we know each other?
It's wait a minute.
Maybe that's how we know each other. Well, they ended up asking me to come and work for them. So then I worked there for 3 years as well. So I volunteered for them. So I left Film Streams and was raising money for Planned Parenthood, which was, again, a really great experience for me, because I care a lot about that organization and about women and people being taken care of without judgment. That was really important to me. And so I was happy to be there and be a part of that and get my feet wet in the fundraising world. And then when Inclusive Communities, which is an organization that's been around since 1938 here in Omaha, started as the National Conference of Christians and Jews, they were looking for an executive director, and I had this beautiful plan. I was like, they have all these youth that are there. You need to be guided. And, how can I help this organization that may or may not live on? It's been around for a long time. People thought, oh, do we have a president that's black now? Do we really need this organization anymore? And so they had thought about closing it. And I thought, no, please don't. I feel like there's something that we can do to help the people of Omaha. And so starting there as the executive director kind of brought all these different pieces of my life together. We were able to do a lot of really great work in that time. And I've never really been one to be like, I want an award. We got a lot of awards for some programming and stuff that we did while we were there. People were really impacted by the work that happened. I learned a lot about myself and about unconscious bias and white supremacy and how we react in the world, and what we're brought up with and what we're capable of recognizing it is in our own power now. It was a really powerful experience for me. Did some really great work, and then I just knew it was time for me to go. We had created a co-leadership position between me and my partner Cammie Watkins there. And I was like, I'm ready. This is the relay race. And so I'm handing this baton off, and she's been able to carry it forward. And it was good for the organization to have sustainability and somebody that had been there for a while. And I wanted to just leave that space just better than you found it, just like you do at the national parks. You leave it better than you find it, So stepping away from that, I took some time off and was just gonna I'm gonna be a writer. I'm gonna write my book. And I was gonna consult and, told everyone I was retiring from the game. And I ate a lot at Lola's and or at Fig, wherever that organization was making food. I was there. And so I was at Lola's and ran into one of the board members there, and they said they were looking for an executive or an interim executive director at Film Streams while they were going to search for a new one. And would I be interested in talking to them about it? And I was like, yeah, I love Film Streams. It's been one of the defining organizations of my life. It's part of my origin story. And, being there, it was fun to come back into it. It was like that Celine Dion song. It's all coming back. Coming back. So just even seeing my name on things, like processes that we had started in that time were still happening and were still very impactful. The people that work there are just like the sweetest individuals. Again, they care so much about the organization, about film. Even as we've done all this research on the Dundee Theater, I think they're getting more excited about it because they're like, oh, we're really a part of something. And that's a rare thing to find when you're talking about intergenerational teamwork. We have an intergenerational team as well. And the people that come to our theater, we have a lot of people from many different age groups that are supportive of this. And so, it's one of the ways where, that's a struggle for a lot of people in the world. That was part of the struggle at Inclusive Communities when we would be working with companies is I just can't talk to the youth.
Yeah.
And these old people, and so it was okay, I get it. Film, again, has a way of allowing us to meet at a middle point because, even if we play a film that you may not agree with the content of, if it has the merits of a good film and it's something that the caliber of the kind of art that we provide, we're going to show it.
Yeah.
And, sometimes I have to tell people I didn't make this movie.
Yeah.
Again, we get the chance, part of what we're doing is we're presenting this so we can discuss it.
Yeah.
How do we truly enhance the cultural environment of a place if we're not willing to have a tough conversation about it?
Right.
And so, when I think about, I have these 2 aging buildings that I'm taking care of, and I think about the construction work and understanding what it takes to maintain a building. I think about the work that I did at Opera Omaha with the box office and, really getting to know people, Inclusive Communities, creating spaces or helping people create spaces that people felt welcome. I get to live out all of those things through this. And so I don't want to say this is the apex of my career. But it does feel like it's at the top for me right now. So the climb, is still happening, I hope. And as I evolve, as the organization evolves, as society evolves, as the city evolves, how do we stay relevant as an organization? How do we appeal to everyone as well? I think a lot of times people are like, well, take a stand on this or that. And it's the stand is that we're going to create a space that people can be themselves in. Yeah. And that is sometimes hard because there are people who say can you take down your Black Lives Matter flags or can you take down your Pride flags? And, it is a part of who we are. And we want to signal to people that we have an appreciation for individuals and we're not going to become this sterile place, a cookie cutter of something else. There's plenty of other spaces that are like that. And we'll just leave that up to them. And we'll continue to allow the community that comes in and the people that work there to influence, and help us evolve as, again, as society is evolving. We're going to last another 100 years or so.
Yeah, right? Cool. Awesome. Well, we should...
Yeah, so we always ask our guests the same question at the end of the episode. There's no wrong or right answer, but where do you find inspiration in Omaha?
It's going to feel like an extension of everything that we just talked about. But since I've been back, I've really, especially this year, January 1, I've really made a concerted effort to see as many films as possible. And so that's required scheduling, and it's required, you know, I think about it as like a part-time job too, because you got to have the energy. Like, does this movie start at 7 or does it start at 5:30? Because that changes what time I get home and get to bed. And I will say that I have been enriched in ways that I didn't even know I needed in this last month and a half of seeing as many as I could. I think I'm at like 37 now, 37 films that I've seen. And it's been great. You know, a huge majority of them have been at film streams, which has given me, it's like a bird's eye view. Not bird's eye. What is it when you're actually in it? Bird's eye is above. Yeah. Maybe a bird walking around in the, It gave me a view of really seeing what people get to see every day when, you know, so I see it when there aren't a lot of people there, and it feels really great and comfortable and inviting, and the team is great and comfortable and inviting. So, you know, it's been really beautiful to see again, like where I know that there are a lot of people that are struggling. I know that there are a lot of things in this world that are causing fear and anguish in a lot of people. And I'm not pretending like those things don't exist, because multiple things can be true at the same time. And I'm really proud of being a part of an organization that is like shining a light. So that's inspiring to me.
Yeah. Great answer.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah,
is there
absolutely.
anything that you didn't touch upon that you want to make sure you say, like, shout out or
you
mention?
know, just, you know, if you're interested in learning more about film streams, www.filmstreams.org is the place to go. Check often for updates on the website, because we load those films up, you know, basically weekly as we get them scheduled. So it's fun. It's a great time. So thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it was fun.
Thanks for listening to Oh My Omaha, the podcast. We want to thank our guest, Hurrdat Media, all of you for your support, and the Omaha community at large.
So from D&I, keep on exploring.